According to Boeing's own order report, there is one airplane nobody wants. And look, I'm not the one saying that. 35 firm orders on the books, all of them from a single airline. 3 carriers have ordered this jet, 2 walked away. The bigger brother already passed 500 orders and enters service in 2027, assuming there are no more delays. So here's the question. How can an airplane with the same engine, the same wing architecture, the same assembly line, and the fuselage difference of just under 23 feet be so completely ignored by the airlines? And there's more. Emirates, the last customer left standing, went back to the order desk in 2025. 65 new aircraft, not a single one of them this version. The company most associated with the program since day one looked at this model 12 years later and picked something else. The strange part is that this was the airplane built to take on the A350-1000 head-on. It was supposed to be the most important product in the entire program. So what happened? In the early 2010s, Boeing owned a niche that was practically all its own. The 777-300ER was one of the most coveted airplanes in the industry. Reliability and profitability in the same package, with room for up to 400 seats. 838 orders across the life of the program, and 833 deliveries, the most delivered wide-body variant ever built. And at that moment, with no direct competitor in service. Airbus knew it, and Airbus had to move. In 2013, the first A350-900 flew, seating up to 350 passengers. 3 years later came the larger variant, the A350-1000. At the same time, the other end of the market was falling apart. The 4-engine jets, the 747 and the A380, no longer closed the business case. Rising costs and, above all, rising fuel turned every single trip into a fight to generate profit. Boeing looked at that picture and saw something that seemed obvious. Not just a replacement, but a potentially enormous market waiting to be taken. On one side, airlines that needed to replace the 777-300ER. On the other, airlines running away from 4-engine jets with nowhere to go. The answer was the 777X family, launched in 2013 with 259 orders and commitments valued at more than $95 billion at list prices, the largest product launch in the history of commercial aviation by value. The idea was clean. The 777-8 would compete with the A350-1000, and the Variant 9 would occupy the space between the big twin jets and the 4-engine jets. Development split across 2 variants, 1 wing, 1 engine, 2 markets. On paper, it's brilliant financial engineering. And for a while, it seemed to work, until the numbers started telling a different story. Let's break this down. In a 2-class layout, the 777-9 seats 426 with a range of 7,285 nautical miles. It doesn't replace an A380 on absolute capacity, but it delivers more than 400 passengers on 2 engines instead of 4. The 777-8 went the opposite way. Shorter fuselage, 395 seats, certified according to Boeing for up to 425, but a range of up to 8,745 nautical miles, almost 1,500 nautical miles more than its bigger brother. It exists because of range. That is its sales argument. That's what justifies the price. And this is where the problem starts. According to Airbus's own data, the A350-1000 has a range of up to 9,100 nautical miles with 375 to 400 seats in 3 classes and the maximum certified capacity of up to 480 nautical miles. The 777-8 was designed to compete with the A350-1000, and in the numbers both manufacturers publish today, it loses by more than 350 nautical miles. In other words, the competitor has more range and a higher maximum capacity. Now add price to that. In the last public list prices released by both manufacturers in 2018 and 2019, the 777-8 sat at around $410 million and the A350-1000 at around $366 million, a gap of roughly $44 million per aircraft. Nobody pays list, but list sets the starting point of the negotiation, and it says something important. The 777X walks into the conversation as the most expensive product in the category. To justify that, it has to give the premium back somewhere, in seats, in cargo, or in revenue per departure. The 777-9 gives it back in seats. In 3-class or 2-class layouts, it carries more people than the A350-1000. At an airport where you can't get any more slots, that isn't a detail. That's the difference between a route that makes money and one that doesn't. That's a solid argument to defend a choice in a board meeting. The 777-8 would give it back in range, except its range isn't the longest in the category anymore. And the moment its main sales argument stops being exclusive, the whole case falls apart. So we have to go back to 2013. There were 259 orders and commitments for the 777X family, not for one variant, but for the entire family. Emirates committed to 150 airplanes in a $76 billion contract, Qatar Airways 50, Etihad 25, Lufthansa 34. Look at the geography. 3 Gulf carriers accounted for 87% of the entire launch backlog. And look at how Emirates split its order: 35 of the 8 and 115 of the 9. Dubai and Doha are connecting hubs, exactly the kind of operation the 777-8 was designed for. So why didn't they move forward with more orders? The rest of the world runs different math. The average European or Asian carrier doesn't need 8,745 nautical miles. It needs frequency, it needs seasonal flexibility, it needs an airplane that fills up in February and not just in July. If you don't need the maximum range, you buy something smaller and cheaper. If you need more people per departure, you buy the 777-9. The 777-8 ends up trapped right in the middle, too big for anyone who wants flexibility, with too much range for anyone who doesn't need it. And then comes the part that shows the real size of the problem. In August 2019, 6 years after launch, Boeing postponed development of the 777-8 to concentrate resources on the 9 and on the 737 MAX crisis. The company made a point of saying it remained committed to the airplane, but it gave no date. At that moment, the 777-8 had 53 orders from 3 airlines: Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Etihad. 7 years later, of those 3, 1 is left. Etihad canceled the 8 it had. Qatar converted 20 of its passenger 777X orders into freighters, and Emirates, in November 2023, ordered another 90 aircraft in a $52 billion package, 55 of the 9 and 35 of the 8. Those 35 are the ones on the books today, all from a single airline. And then came the loudest signal of all. In November 2025, Emirates came back to the Dubai Airshow and signed for another 65 aircraft in a $38 billion contract, all of them 777-9s, not one firm order for the 8. The airline kept only conversion rights. If it ever changes its mind, it can convert part of that order, but when it came time to sign, it chose the bigger version. From that moment on, a red light went on inside Boeing. The endless certification delays and everything else that went wrong have been covered to death, so let's skip ahead and go straight to what matters. The 777X program has already piled up roughly $15 billion in costs and accounting charges, development, rework, production inefficiency, and customer compensation. To give you a sense of the scale, that's the same order of magnitude Airbus spent developing the entire A350 family from scratch. And the delay didn't spread the pain evenly between the 2 variants. The 777-9 is first in line. It enters service in 2027 and starts generating revenue. The freighter comes next, scheduled for 2029, and the passenger 777-8 got pushed behind everybody. While Boeing was certifying, Airbus was selling, and not just selling, improving the product. The A330neo was also born as 2 variants. The A330-900 has piled up 477 firm orders. The A330-800 has 12. And before you assume the problem is being the smaller version, it isn't. The A350-900, the smaller member of the A350 family, has passed 1,000 orders, against 367 for the A350-1000. Being smaller sells extremely well. The difference is something else, and it explains everything. The A330-800 and the 777-8 both sacrifice capacity in exchange for more range within their own families. Airbus has the proof of that in-house. It took the A350-900, its biggest commercial success, and built an extended range version, the A350-900ULR. It sold 7 to one single airline, Singapore Airlines. The pattern isn't Boeing's, it's the market's. Almost nobody pays a premium for range they don't use. But not everything was lost for Boeing and for the 8. In 2022, Boeing launched the 777-8 freighter, with Qatar Airways Cargo as launch customer, 34 firm aircraft and 16 options, in a contract worth more than $20 billion, the largest freighter commitment in Boeing's history by value. And pay attention to this detail. Of Qatar's 34 freighters, 20 were conversions of passenger orders it already had. The math on a freighter is completely different. In air cargo, you sell tonnage, and this is where the short fuselage and the maximum takeoff weight of the 777-8 finally make sense. The 777-8F offers 118 tons of maximum structural payload, essentially matching the 747-400F with 25% lower fuel burn, fewer emissions, and lower operating costs than that 4-engine jet. It's the exact same airframe. It's just that in the cargo market, the thing that pays the bill is weight, not the seat. And weight is something the 777-8 has plenty of. Except Boeing isn't alone in that fight. Airbus launched the A350F, which has already passed 100 firm orders and is due to enter service in 2027. And even so, the freighter numbers are from another planet. The firm backlog for the 777-8F has already passed 80 aircraft, between Qatar Airways Cargo, Cargolux, Lufthansa Cargo, China Airlines, China Southern, Korean Air, Silkway West, and ANA Cargo. In 2026 at Farnborough, MSC, one of the largest shipping companies in the world, revealed itself as the customer behind a 5-aircraft order that was already in Boeing's records under an unidentified buyer. The variant almost nobody wanted for carrying people is selling just fine for carrying freight. So, did Boeing build the wrong airplane? It got it right when it saw that the market needed a successor to the 777-300ER. It got it right again when it created the 777-9 and filled the vacuum left by the 4-engine jets. More than 500 orders don't happen by accident. The problem is that the 777-8 was designed to win one specific fight. And while the 777X spent years running late in development and certification, the competitor kept evolving. It gained weight and range and locked in its position in the segment. So here's the question. Should Boeing kill the passenger 777-8 for good and put everything into the 777-9 and the freighter? Let me know in the comments below.